Today's episode is about suicide. This episode is to all those who have considered a final good night, and also to all those who decided to continue the good fight. Because we understand that there are people struggling to navigate this thing called life. We know it's tough. You see, this episode today is for all those who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough. We dedicate this show to those watching from beyond who decided to cross over the line. And likewise, we offer this episode to honor and support all those they left behind. Welcome to When Docs Talk, Unanticipated Goodbyes.
When docs talk, when docs talk, when docs talk, when docs talk.
Hello. We are When Docs Talk. As I mentioned earlier, we are talking about suicide today. We are giving a voice to a topic that so many people find difficult to discuss. For those of you joining us for the first time, we are When Docs Talk, a collaborative of medical professionals. We are doctors, we are nurses, we are all sorts of professionals within the field, and we come together to talk to you and talk with you. I am joining you here from Atlanta. I am Dr. Adidiang Ipe Apo. You can call me Dr. Didi, that's fine with me. Welcome, welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Sonia Pinson. I am a family physician working in the urgent care emergency room setting here, based out of Atlanta, born and raised here in Georgia, and also a Navy veteran, and just glad to be a part of this show with these wonderful, great ladies. So thank you for letting me be a part of this with you.
Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Yuli Harrison Lloyd. I'm a board-certified family medicine physician from New Orleans by way of Arkansas, rural Arkansas, OCO, Reliable Stand Up. And I'm also working in an urgent care setting here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm glad to join these ladies and our wonderful guests this evening.
Well, thank you for joining us. As always, this is the crew from When Docs Talk. We've seen a lot, and we like to share our stories with you. By training, I'm an emergency physician. I'm also board certified in internal medicine, and I've worked in ERs throughout Atlanta, in Los Angeles, but I hail from Miami, Florida, by way of Niger. So shout out to the MIA and to Nigeria, Akwa Ibom State. I would like for you all to check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We are there. So like, share, subscribe. We love to hear from you. And we thank those of you who have given us some suggestions as to what you want to hear. But as you know, we always start off with talking about what's going on in the world before we jump right into our discussion about suicide. So ladies, hot tops with the docs. What's on your mind? What's going on?
Oh boy. Y'all, I got a good giggle out of this. Y'all, this lady in Texas, she's pregnant, right? She was in the HOV lane. She got pulled over because it was just her. And she said, well, based on this Roe v. Wade, this baby is a person. This fetus is a person. So why am I getting pulled over? Y'all, I laughed so hard.
Well, I want to know, what did the officer say?
You know, I think they actually let her go.
I would let her go just out of the creativity alone, like that in itself.
I would let her go because she's pregnant and she's just trying to get somewhere. Can you let a pregnant lady just go somewhere? I mean, for real. Can we just get to where we're going?
I can see the officer now. Like, man, why were you in the HOV lane? Well, the fetus is a person too.
That's
right.
2, 1, 2.
There we go. Sonia,
Yeah.
you were telling me about something. What were you? There was a really interesting article that you were telling me about. I couldn't quite believe it. Please share.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was looking through my favorite news site, TMZ. That's my reliable source of news. And so, anyway, I was looking at, they have a state senator from Rhode Island, Tiara Mack. So, for her, she's doing a re-election campaign. And so, for 4th of July, she did a TikTok video in which she's twerking, doing the handstand. So she is 28 years old. And so pretty much she was, saying, hey, come support me. And I'm pretty bad because I can do this. And so she's gotten a lot of flack from it.
Oh, wait, she was on a handstand twerking?
Oh, yeah, twerking. Twerking. Working with your mama gave you.
That's how they do it in Rhode Island? Is that what they do?
Yes, in Rhode Island.
I didn't know support. If
I
she's
didn't know
doing
they did that.
handstands, she don't need no support.
Exactly. Yeah, they do it like that in Rhode Island. So it was just from the standpoint of the dynamics, though. Some people, and it really depends on how you look at things. So she's 28. She's saying, you know what? I'm showing them I'm a politician. I can be free. I'm a person too. I have personality. But some people are like, you know what? Is that being tacky and classless? But for her, she came out and said, you know what? Really, even if people had a problem with me, they didn't agree with it. People were coming out because she was Black and saying derogatory.
Oh, she's black. She's black.
She's a Black. Yeah, she's a Black woman, Black young female, as well as she's homosexual. She's a lesbian, which she's not. Once again, she's very proud of all of this, but it was just very hurtful, at least from the statements that I was reading, that, you know what, out of everything, that people were really going at her because she was Black.
I see.
And so I think that was the thing from the standpoint of, yeah, you can say it was comical. But then again, also it's like, wait a minute, why can't this young woman, even if it was a mistake or not, can't she just be who she is and not?
No, I hear you. And that kind of came up, honestly, Sonia, that's come up in the medical field too. I don't know if you remember, was it like a year ago or something, where there were some doctors who were in bikinis,
yes.
physicians, and they were given flat, like, how could you be wearing a swimsuit and you're a doctor and so forth? And so the question comes up, like, is there a dress code when you go into a certain profession, on your own private time? Clearly, we're not wearing bikinis in the hospital, okay? It's not happening like that. But on our own personal time, why is it inappropriate for us to wear certain clothes? And I feel like it just brings up the whole issue of women and the policing of our clothes, whether we're in work or out of work.
Absolutely. And the thing is too, I feel like everybody is entitled to their own opinions. But right now, I tell you, people get so ruthless. And then also you get to hear those opinions now on social media.
That's
so when you get on social media, it's one thing if you're like, I don't care what people say, but now they like writing it, you're reading it, and it's there.
Oh yeah. And some of them are taking a step further. They're getting really aggressive with their comments. So if they find out any way to contact you, they can actually direct message you and really become almost bullying in a sense.
Exactly.
What a lot of people are complaining about.
Yeah. So from all those different angles.
Yeah. Well, I wish my story was as exciting. I gotta talk about COVID, y'all. That's what's on my mind. That's what I was reading in the news. So for those of you who have been along with us for this journey, you know that we were talking a lot about COVID in the early stages of When Docs Talk. And I wish we could put COVID in the backseat and keep it moving, but that's not really what it is. As many of you know, wherever you're watching us from, COVID is still alive and real. A lot of people are seeing a surge, which some people are referring to as the silent surge of COVID. But the truth is, I was reading an article where a lot of experts are saying this is really not a new surge. Ever since Omicron hit late last year, the numbers never really went down. And now we have variants, of which the most common that we're seeing are BA4 and BA5 circulating. They are subvariants of Omicron. And we're finding that, unfortunately, even if you have been infected already with COVID in the past, or if you have had the vaccine, there are people who are still getting it. I know people who had Omicron like legit 4 months ago, and they've tested positive again. So that's the bad news, everyone. But the good news is that the vaccines are still working to help prevent severe infection. So we are not seeing, at least in my practice, I'm sure you guys can, chime in and let me know what you're seeing. We're not seeing what we saw a year or a year and a half ago, where people come in all ages and they're just dropping their oxygen levels and we have to, admit them to the hospital or even intubate them. We're not seeing that as much. And I think that it's because the vaccine did what it said it was going to do. Remember, it didn't say it was going to prevent COVID. or completely eradicate COVID. What they said is that it was going to decrease deaths and hospitalizations, and we're seeing that. So what can you do if you feel like, gosh, I just got over this whole COVID thing. I'm living my best life, trying to enjoy the summer. How can I protect myself from going through the COVID blues again? So I think it's a personal choice at this point for what people want to do and what level of security they want from the disease. We still advocate for the vaccine. We advocate that you get vaccinated, get boosted. Everyone in my household is vaccinated, except for my youngest, who's 4, but the vaccine has now just come out for those who are in that age range, so he will be vaccinated. Consider masking. We talked about masks a lot on some of our past episodes. We do know that they help. A lot of people are not. In a crowded setting, I still mask. I mask indoors. I don't really keep my mask off unless I'm around like my household, my family. When I'm going out, I still mask, particularly when the numbers are high. When the numbers were a little lower and I didn't see as many cases, I did sometimes relax the mask thing a little bit. Consider it. Also, it's summertime. I know it's hot as heck wherever some people are, but outdoors is really the way to go. It's not that you can't get COVID outdoors, but it's a lot less easily transmitted. So outdoor activities, masking indoors. If you feel sick, oh, I have a little sore throat. Oh, it's my allergies acting up. Please get tested, because if I had a dime for every person who has told me, oh, it's not COVID, doc, it's my allergies that actually ended up being COVID, we might maybe not need to even do this show. So this is the thing. Protect yourself, protect others. If you're around people who are vulnerable, older people, people with asthma and comorbidities, you definitely want to make sure that if you're feeling sick, stay away. Trust me, they don't want you at work getting everyone sick. So that's all I have to say. That's my story. It's not a twerking story. It's not a lady who's in the HOV lane trying to, prove a point, but it's a story that I hope that you guys will take to heart. Have you guys been seeing a lot of COVID?
Yeah. I don't know, for me personally, I do feel like I've seen my own little surge in my circle. Yeah. And then when I'm at work and that kind of stuff, but you are correct. We're not seeing the severity. So it's very virulent still. So it is passing really, really rampantly, but not the severity. Which is good because, I definitely do not want to go back to those days.
I'm definitely seeing more of it myself. I have, thankfully, knock on all sorts of wood, I have not gotten COVID, and don't want it. My family hasn't gotten COVID. I've got 2 little ones, the 8-month-old and the 3-year-old, and they are definitely getting vaccinated. But COVID is alive and well and kicking and having a hot girl summer and trying to ruin yours. So
That's right. All right. Well, we're going to switch gears a little bit. Thank you for those who have joined us so far. I see about 800 of you on. Definitely feel free to post any questions or comments. We want to hear from you. But we're going to go into our next segment where we talk to you a little bit about what we came here to talk about, which is suicide. Okay. All of us have personal experiences with suicide. Thank you, Elizabeth Cerny. We appreciate your comments. I just want to throw up a little bit of information about it before we share with you what we have seen. Okay. So suicide in this country is the 12th leading cause of death. And in 2020 alone, over 45,000 Americans died by suicide at an average rate of 130 deaths per day. In 2020 also, over 1.2 million Americans, or I should say million people in America, attempted suicide. We know that women are almost 2 times more likely to attempt suicide, but men are almost 4 times more likely to actually die from suicide. So there's that distinction between attempts and death. Suicide rate is highest in middle-aged white men. We also know that firearms, something that we've discussed a lot on our show, accounted for almost 53% of suicide deaths here in America in the 2020 data. 90% of the suicide deaths had a diagnosable mental health condition at the time of their death. 10% of adult Americans have thought about suicide. 10%. And I think that number could actually be underestimated. 54% of Americans have been affected by suicide in some way. And 93% of Americans surveyed in 2020 think that suicide can be prevented. Ladies, tell me a little bit about your thoughts on this matter.
Well, I think, you know, it's something that it's really no something that a lot of times people don't want to talk about, but it's there. And now, I don't know, for me, I feel like it's more prevalent. I felt like it was here and there, and you would hear of people committing suicide, and but it was never you or never really anyone you knew, and that kind of stuff overall.
Sure.
um, you know. And so for me personally, I don't know, people that know me, my sister died June 1st of last year, and she committed suicide. And, once, she had her issues, and those are hers, those are private, but she decided to do something to end how she was feeling. And, never knew quite, from the standpoint of thinking about, she had done some attempts or thought about it or had articulated, but never thought that she would go through with it. Because once again, never thought that it would happen to me. It would
Right.
never happen to somebody that I specifically know. I've had a cousin that had done it, but it was them, not me and anybody that I was close to. And so then it makes you kind of, when it gets to you personally and within your own sphere, and you think about what is somebody thinking that they would want to end their life? Like what kind of pain, what everything, anything that they were going through that they felt like that was the only answer. And you wish that you could help them. You wish that you could do something about it. And ultimately that person decides what they feel is best for them. But then again, what can we do to make people not feel that is their only answer? That
Yeah.
that's the only way for them. And I think now there's a lot of people out there, the way things are going, when it came to COVID,
Yeah.
isolation, and then economically, when it comes to jobs, I think a lot of people, even if they had not done it, they're thinking about it. Or
Yeah.
maybe that's their answer.
Yeah.
And then even people that you wouldn't even think. I mean, just think about all the celebrities recently
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
who kill themselves. And once again, they're thinking that the only answer that they have is to kill themselves.
Is to kill themselves.
Yep.
And I'm so glad that first of all, thank you for sharing what happened with your sister, with our viewers. I know that that was very, very difficult and still is difficult for you. You mentioned about the pain, and you mentioned also about the celebrities. And I think that it's a really important point, because a lot of people have this misconception that if you have, money or fame, or so many people love you and everything seems to be going well for you, that that's not something that would ever be a thought. And I think we've seen so many instances of situations where that's just not the case. We've seen sons of celebrities. We've seen former Miss USAs.
Yes.
Yep.
This is something that affects everybody of all walks of life and all ethnicities.
Yes. Yeah.
I
It's
feel
you're
like
not you guys immune to it. Go
No.
ahead, Dylan.
I was just going to say, I feel like, especially in the African American community, I feel like that there is a stigma attached to it because it will be swept under the rug of religion sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
They'll tell someone literally to sleep it off, or just to pray about it. And if that's your thing, that's your thing. But sometimes more intervention is needed. I've lost some people really close to me. One of them being my intern, one of my interns, my second year of residency. Um, I saw him while I was getting ready to go on vacation. Asked him, was everything fine? That was a Friday. It was great. I actually flew to Guam, had a great time, came back in a week, and they told me what happened. And I was like, I would have never thought that this guy who just smiled in my face and everything was fine would have done this.
Yeah.
It sneaks up on you, and that's the best way I can describe it. It just sneaks up on you.
And I know, and I'm so, and I'm looking forward to the discussion that we're having with our experts, because I think you hit on a lot of points, Yolanda, from the standpoint of even when it comes to religion, and especially in our community, from the standpoint of, is it something that, which we do need to discuss, and seriously, from the standpoint when people feel bad or if they feel depressed, like, it's okay. That's not a character flaw.
Right.
And it's okay to feel hopeless and overwhelmed. It's not a matter of toughen up, suck it up. No, it's okay, and to discuss it and talk about it.
Yes.
As well as, also, it was interesting. I've heard some people, I'm religious. I'm Baptist, I'm a Christian, but from the standpoint, even when my sister committed suicide, I had issues talking about it because I was concerned, are people going to say, oh, she's going to hell because she killed herself? Is that the ultimate sin?
Right.
And of course, for me, no, I'm going to see her again. My beliefs are that, because of our beliefs, I believe that I'm going to see her again. And this is just, she was hurting and she needed to go. And I feel like she's somewhere that she feels better, that she's at peace. And so, but I think that's part of this discussion that hopefully, when we discuss it with our experts, that we're going to discuss stigma.
Yeah.
What's keeping people from going to get help, as well as those discussions, even with family members afterwards. How are they dealing with it?
Absolutely. There is a lot of stigma. I know that people have a hard time discussing it for so many different reasons. I see here E.M. McCribb is saying, yes, depression is not a character flaw, not Black myself, but that's something in my family as well. People are scared to even talk about that their family member committed suicide because they're scared of the judgment that others will have for that loved one, even outside of religion. Because aside from, that was a sin, you also hear things like, that they were weak or they couldn't handle it. There's a lot of negative judgment that people have towards people who opt for suicide. And so that's part of our discussion, is how we can destigmatize it and what kind of ways can we talk about it more? And is it worthwhile to talk about it? That's another thing we'll talk about. Because there's some people who think that we shouldn't because it encourages it. But, that's definitely one of the myths that I hear out there.
No, and that's a great point to bring up, because I would never, in my discussion or even thinking about it, I would never think that anybody would, if we could save a life or help somebody.
Well, some people think that if you talk about depression to a depressed person, suicide, you're giving them ideas. That's what we've heard. But I don't want to belabor the point. I mean, I really want to continue this discussion with some of our experts. We have a lot of great people here to share their expertise and their personal experiences with us. I want to say that suicide has touched all of us. When they did a poll of Americans, the vast majority, almost 70-something%, feel that suicide has impacted them one shape, way, or form. I have had people in my family attempt suicide. I have had friends who have committed suicide. Suicide is something that you're not going to escape. And even professionally, I've had patients who have attempted suicide during that ER visit. There was a patient who went to the restroom and found a way to hang himself. And the only reason that we knew that he was injured is because the pipe that he hung himself on broke, and it released all this flooding. And so when we finally went into the room, we were able to find him. So we had to go from one section of the emergency department, the psychiatric section, to the trauma section, because we had to evaluate his neck. So it is prevalent. We hear about it a lot. And so before we bring on our guest, for those of you who are just joining us, I want to remind you that there is a National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. They are there available 24/7. You can call the number on the screen or even text TALK to 741-741. You are not alone.
When dogs talk, when dogs talk, when dogs talk, when dogs talk. When dogs talk, when dogs talk.